that one day this nation will rise up, live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
So far I haven't anybody that did not recognize the voice of Martin Luther King Jr. In 1963, he started a march from right in front of us, and he went down to the Lincoln Memorial where he delivered that speech. On our left is the Ronald Reagan Building at International Trade Center. That today is the newest building in Federal Triangle, and it's the largest federal office building in Washington, D.C. 3 million square feet of office space in there. Then we have the Wilson Building, that's Washington, D.C. City Hall. And finally, the last building in Federal Triangle, the Herbert Hoover Department of Commerce building. Martin began his march from just on our right. Today that's called Freedom Plaza. And the night before he delivered his speech, he was finishing it off. He was staying in one of the oldest and one of the finest hotels in the city, the Willard Hotel. The white building on our right under the black dome. People think that he must have been inspired because in the same building, 100 years earlier, Julia Ward Howe wrote the words to the Battle Hymn of the Republic, and he quoted that in his speech. On our left is the White House Visitor Center. It's closed for repair, and temporarily we have a temporary White House Visitor Center. It's across the street, back in those trees where you see the wooden disabled access ramps. That's the current White House Visitor Center. Today the White House is closed for tours, so you have to settle for the Visitor Center, which is free. All kinds of good information about the White House. When Peter was here drawing plans, there were no streets here. There were no buildings, there was nothing here, no memorials, nothing but woods and a couple streams. And one of the first things that he noticed was there was a stream that ran from the Potomac River directly to the spot he had just picked out to put the Capitol. So on his plan, he called for that stream to be turned into a grand canal, and it was. And for decades, we had a Washington Canal that ran from the Potomac River on the other side of this block, right next to the mall, all the way down past the Capitol, where it split into two branches and continued down to the Anacostia River. In those days, all heavy cargo was transported on barges towed by mules. The big space right in front of us now on Peter's plan was called President's Park. And Peter wanted that to be a private park for the president, but the first man to live in the White House, John Adams, made that a public park. It's still the National Limits, 55 acres of public park. And the section on this end is Boy Scout Park in memory of the very first American National Boy Scout Jamboree that was held in the city in 1936. They had another one just last week. Peter's plan also called for the White House and the Capitol to be made out of marble. But his boss, Big George, said, Peter, we can save an awful lot of money if we don't use marble. So instead of marble, they went across the river to Virginia and got sandstone from a quarry over there. And who do you think owned the quarry? Big George. This building on our right is made from that sandstone. Look at it closely. You can see it ranges in color from black to white. That shows that the White House and the Capitol are not white. So they're made from, but because of paint that was put on that stone. Coming up on our right side at this light all the way across the National Limits, you'll get a great view of the south lawn of the White House. That lawn is where we have our Easter egg roll every spring, and that's where the presidents helicopter lands and takes off. The upper deck on the porch was put up there in 1945 by Harry Truman. People say he liked to sit up on that in a rocking chair and watch tourists like us drive by. On our right is a thank you gift to the United States from France, and thanks for help we gave them. In World War I, we sent the 2nd Army Division to help in the defense of Paris. That division was the Flaming Sword Division. The old canal ran right where this street is today. At the end of the Civil War, it had become so polluted, they put it inside a tunnel and buried it. So we can't see it today, but it's still here right under the ground, and it still runs from the Potomac River past the Capitol down to the Anacostia River. When it was above ground, there were a couple locks. The lock keepers were given very small places to stay, about the size of the little building on our right. But those lock keepers had a boss, the head lock keeper. He had the mansion over there on the left. Look at that building. He and his wife raised 13 kids there. Maybe more important, when that building opened, it was 31 feet from the Potomac River, and today you cannot see the river. They didn't move the building. They moved the river. Today it is more than a mile away, and everything in between is land and on our right is the Organization of American States. Behind that, a South American art gallery. Then, a South American park with South American heroes. The statue on the right is Jose Artigas. He's the father of Uruguay, and he's every little boy's dream. He was born a millionaire in Montevideo. When he was 12 years old, he got tired of school. So he quit, and he ran away to join the Gauchos, the South American cowboys. He became the head Gaucho. He led his men to war, and he was the most successful general ever to fight in South America. He defeated the Portuguese army, the Spanish army, the Brazilian army, and he was the only one back in those days never went to school after he was 12 years old. On the right, Pan American Union building. On the left, Constitution Lake, with an island that has memorials to each of the men who signed the Declaration of Independence. 56 men have memorials under there. On the right is the Department of Interior, and next to that, the building that looks like a bank, is the Federal Reserve. There is a very, very famous Washington businessman, all of you know his name, who began business selling hot dogs right along Constitution Avenue here. He did well. He saved up his money, and he was able to open a chain of restaurants in this area that he called the Hot Shops. They did very well, and with that money, he was able to open a chain of restaurants all over the world, and hotels. Many of you have stayed in his places. Some of you may be in one now. Who can tell me his name? Some of his places were called courtyards. J. Willard Marriott, correct. A local businessman that made real big time. But he didn't come here originally from D.C. He came here from Utah. The next building is the National Gallery of Sciences. One of their members was Albert Einstein. There's a statue of Albert out front, and Albert's sitting down.